you mentioned it, you've been here touring on stage.
Yeah.
Talk about the transition from stage to film, to screen, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I think I grew up thinking it was a huge difference. I think I grew up being like, well, you know, there's an audience and there's like a give and a take and a receiving of, you know, the energy and an applause and then there's this, you know, going to camera, there's like this tiny little thing that you try not to look at that's like 3 inches from your face. And, but I think for me, you know, because the Umbrella Academy is the first time I've ever been on camera. This was my first TV show. And so one, I had an unbelievable cast that was so helpful, and two, I am not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to be like, I don't know what's happening here. You just said I'm doing something that I don't know. You said a bunch of numbers, but that means I'm going to the bathroom. Didn't know what that meant. So I think the biggest thing for me was it's just the scale is different. When you're on stage and you're performing in front of a live audience that could be, you know, as many as 3,000 people on Broadway or on tour, you know, you have to reach the back row because those people paid a lot of money to see your performance and they want to feel what you're feeling and go through the journey with you and go through the story. And when, you know, you're on camera, you don't have to, your emotions don't have to reach as far. It's almost if you think it and you actually like really feel it, it comes across. And so I think it was finding that balance for me of kind of scaling it back a little bit, and kind of just feeling it in a deeper, like fully grounded way. Yeah, if that made any sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I hear that. In a room like this, it really lets you visualize the difference of depth.
Yeah, and I think the biggest, most obvious thing is, you know, when you're doing a show, you spend 4 weeks learning it, and then you do that show 8 times a week for as long, you know, if you're in Phantom of the Opera, that's almost 30 years. But, but you know, some shows last 3 months on Broadway, some shows last 30 years on Broadway, you never know, but that is, you know, if you take a contract, how long you want to do it, you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, 8 times a week, 6 nights a week. So I think, but then in TV and film, you have a 5-minute rehearsal when you're already in costume and makeup and hair. You talk about where everybody's gonna stand, and then you have a rehearsal for, you know, the stand-ins and for the camera guys and the lighting and the sound, and then you do it, and then you do it 25 times that day, but then you never go back and do it again. So I think that for me was also part of the learning process of like, it kind of feels like you're just always in a state of rehearsal, because then by the time you're finally like, oh yeah, okay, I think I kind of understand what's happening in the scene. They're like, okay, next, moving on. You're like, whoa, wait, I just started to realize, okay, fine, it's fine.
Right, so it takes that character approach to hyperdrive.
Yeah.
You're just moving so fast.
Yeah, whereas like in theater, when you start rehearsals for a project, there is the space to, like, I have 4 weeks to figure this out. I have 4 weeks to know at the beginning, and you know the beginning, the middle, and the end. In TV, when we started shooting the pilot, they hadn't written the 10th episode yet, so like we had no idea what was going to happen at the end of the season. Where in a musical, you know, in a play, you know the whole story, and a movie. So I think that was also, by the time we were getting to episode 8, I was like, man, I wish I'd known this 4 episodes ago. I would have done that other scene completely different. But it's done. It's in the can. It's done.
Yeah, in theater, 3.5 weeks into rehearsal, you might be like, major character change.
Yeah.
I've had a discovery.
And you have the freedom, because you do it 8 times a week, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna make a different choice tonight. And then you're like, well, that didn't work. And then you can try a different choice the next night. But, you know, and you get that in TV and film, but it's in the moment. You have to kind of think faster, and it has to come to you faster. You don't have weeks and weeks and performances to kind of mold this thing. So there's a lot more work on the front end, I think, in TV and film, whereas theater, it kind of unfolds as the process goes.
We will be talking about Umbrella Academy a lot, probably, so get ready for that. And with Umbrella Academy in mind, season 2?
Season 2.
Do you have any? Yeah! So do you have any major spoilers to drop for us here at Denver?
No.
I always try. No.
It's gonna be, I've read episodes 1 and 2, and you guys are in for a real treat.
Awesome.
They're really going for it.
Awesome.
But it's because you guys watch the show. It really is because you guys love the show, and there's so many fans of the show, and like, you know, over 60 million people have watched it. It's because of that they just were like, oh great, and then are taking it to like a crazy, insane, next level. And it's the opening of the first episode is bananas. So it's gonna be, I think they blew the whole budget in like the first 10 minutes. So it's gonna be really,
It's gonna be a good 10 minutes.
it's gonna be a really good 10 minutes, and then you're like, great, I'm done. No more episodes. 10 minutes, not 10 episodes. That's the spoiler.
No, so that's her only chance. Don't give her any more. No season 2 questions. I gave her a chance. That's it.
I can try, but I'll probably say I don't know, because I actually don't know. Hi.
So did you have any similarities in between your character Angelica and Allison that you delved into?
Yeah, it's so funny you asked that. So initially when I got cast in the show, they were like, what do you want Allison to look like? Because the rumor in the comics has the purple hair, she's like always rocking the seemingly leather pants and jacket, and she's, has this like hard edge to her. And they were like, do you wanna rock your own hair? Do you wanna do a wig? Like, what do you wanna do? And I was fighting to have this hair, and Netflix and everyone was like, great, we're on board with that if that's what you want. But then I think the further we got into the camera testing and like getting ready to start shooting, I was like, I have spent the past 3 years of my life doing a show where I had this hair, and so for me, I wanted to like separate Angelica and Allison, but I think there is so much strength in Allison and in Angelica that I just realized that both of their names starts with an A. I was like, wow, I'm so slow. That I think that was an easy. That's an easy thing to attach to. That they both have this kind of like worldly kind of energy about them that everyone else in the room just doesn't get it a little bit, but she's just gonna wait until everyone else gets on her page. So I think Allison kind of feels like that about her brothers, that I think they're all just running around with their like chickens with their heads cut off and going through their own things, and Diego's over here doing whatever that is, and Cox is over here drinking and doing whatever he's doing, and Luther's mourning the moon, and so I think but I also think so I tried to take the back seat to kind of let all of them play out their melodramas that they have going on, and I think that Angelica kind of had that too. That kind of, she was in the ears of a lot of really powerful men in her time, and she was writing letters to Thomas Jefferson, and she was writing letters to Hamilton, and I think she might not have been in the public eye, and I think a lot of people don't know that she was definitely way smarter than anybody ever gave her credit for.
All right there.
Did you start reading, did you finish reading the comics before you acted the show?
Yes, so when I first was asked to audition for it, I read the script of the pilot and was like, this is insane. Like, these characters, what they're going through, it was unlike any other, superhero scripts that I had written. I wish! that I had read.
You just got a whole bunch of people excited for your fan
Did you guys
fiction.
know I'm the ghostwriter of the whole show? Oh my God, Steve would kill me. So I had read, and so I immediately ordered the comics because I just was so interested, and I wanted to see what they looked like, what these characters that I had kind of created, what they envisioned what they looked like in my mind. I wanted to see what they looked like, from Gabriel and Gerard. And so I instantly read them. And then, later on in the process, Steve Blackman and Netflix and all of our producers were like, obviously this is the source material, this is what we're pulling from, this is where it started, but we're by no means like holding this as gospel, and we're gonna take our own right turns and forks in the road and kind of embellish and dive deeper. But yeah, we all read them, and I love them, they're so good.
So since this was your first time doing film, what did you discover about yourself as an actress?
That's a great question. The thing that I think I'm still struggling with the most is to slow down. I think there is this thing in TV and film where like time is of the essence because time is money, and if you're wasting people's time, you're wasting people's money. And so I think there's this like trying to find the balance of like doing the work and getting the takes that you need and getting the emotional discoveries that you're looking for, but also not wasting everybody's time, because yes, it is just me and one other person in the scene, but there are 300 people in the building that are like, TikTok, we have until 12 to shoot this scene, and then we've got 7 other scenes after that. So I think initially I was very much aware of the clock and like saying my lines really fast and kind of like mumbling a little bit and trying to, you know, not wanting to take too much time. And if I flubbed a line or I forgot something, I was always so apologetic. And so I think that was the thing that I'm learning still about myself and about being in this industry, is just kind of, yes, there is a clock, but also like the work also needs to be done and the story needs to be told. So it's like finding that balance, which sometimes I find and then sometimes I don't. And there's a couple, you know, scenes in the show that I'll watch and be like, I was rushing, or like I didn't, or, you know, or I was like, I was mumbling because I was just trying to get my words out because I just wanted to like carry on with the scene. So I think that's something I'm still toying with and trying to figure out.
Do you find that there's a difference in your performance process when you're working with a character like Angelica or Umbrella Academy, where you have source material to work from, versus doing a show where you don't have source material and you really kind of get to create your own thing?
Yeah, are you saying, do I like the difference?
What did you find?
What
do you find the difference is?
I think there's always this choice that you make as an actor of, okay, this person is a real human, or this character is based off of a comic or a novel or a book or what have you, and you kind of have to make the choice of how deep you're going to dive into the source material and how much you're going to decide to make your own. Because at the end of the day, actors are hired to portray characters the way that they are going to portray them. So you always have to bring some part of yourself to a role. And I think that people always ask me, like, what's your advice for, you know, someone who wants to be in the industry or wants to perform or wants to be an actor? And I always say, and this is the thing that I am still learning and had to learn, and it's the hardest thing to learn, is to not imitate other people and try to be yourself and bring as much of yourself to what you're doing, and because it's hard, because, you know, you're like, oh, I'm gonna be a superhero, and in the comics she looks like this, and she's like a badass, and she's, you know, any of those things, whatever it is. But I think at the end of the day, you got in the room, you got the audition, you got the callback, and then you got the job because you are bringing something that nobody else was bringing to the table, and that's what they want. So I think when there is so much source material, whether it's a real person or a character that's, you know, in the illustrative world, if you will, I think you have to decide how much you want to pull from what, and sometimes it's focusing on like one minute detail of their personality, and then sometimes it's like a huge, like a physical thing. So I think every actor is different, but I think for me it was definitely like the strength, and for Allison, I'm an only child. And so I didn't grow up having siblings. I didn't know what that was like. And so for me, I really tried to deep dive into like what it's like to be a sibling and what that energy is when you're in a room with like 4 other people that you grew up with and you've known your entire life. And so that was, for me, that was kind of the thing that I pulled the most from the graphic novels and tried to bring into Allison.
Hi, so I'm a theater kid and I've been acting since I was like 6, so forever, and I was wondering if you have a favorite musical that you've either seen or been in, and if you don't have a favorite musical, do you have a favorite character you've ever gotten to portray?
Oh, okay. Favorite, okay, so this is dumb, truly, because it is what it is, but I mean, the best musical I've ever been in is Hamilton. That's... It's made it really hard to go back into theater, because I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? Cats? So I think it's you know, as much as I love full spandex suits covered in fur, I just that story and the way that it was told, and also, you know, being in the original cast, there's just so much emotion, and you know, there's so much attached to it for me that filled me as an artist I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. And then going from the ensemble to then playing Angelica just came full circle for me. And so I was happy to like hang that up for a little bit and try something different. But I think playing Angelica was really special. And then I was on tour with Wicked for a really long time, and I got to play Elphaba, and that was incredible. It's here, right?
It is.
Wow. No one knows the Wicked.
Did it take to film the first season?
The first season we started shooting like the second week of January of last year, and then we wrapped like the second week of July. Yeah, so almost, what is that, 7 months? Yeah. It takes a long time. It takes like anywhere from like 14 to 16 days to film one episode.
And it's got to be weird when some episodes are like the same day.
Oh yeah, well that's also the thing is our entire season, it's like, yeah, sure, it took 7 months, but it took 7 months to shoot a season that's 8 days.
Yeah.
So I would spend, I mean, there was, at the end of, the end of episode 8, for those who've watched, I get really bloody, and I was just in that bloody getup for like a month and a half. I was like, can I please put on some different clothes? I just was covered in blood, for the same blood, for like a month and a half. It was terrible.
Is it difficult to act with a lot of special effects and green screens?
That was actually, going, when I was like, I'm gonna try TV and film. I thought I'd start with like, an indie, like, Lady Bird or something where there's no one's flying, there's no stunts, there's no green screen, special effects, and then I just landed in this ridiculous, show where there's all of that, and so I had to pretend like I'd done it before. I was like, yeah, green screen. Yep, it's over there. Okay, what am I looking at? Got it. So, but I think coming from theater, you have to use so much imagination, especially when you're rehearsing and learning a show, and you're creating this world, and so I think being able to use my imagination and see things that weren't there, I actually really enjoyed it. And the funny part is, so Pogo on set was played by this amazing actor named Ken, and so he had like the VFX suit with all the little dots on him, and so for 7 months Ken was Pogo, and he was saying the lines, he was emoting, like he'd be crying in scenes, and he's just an unbelievable actor. And then when we were shooting the 10th episode, they showed us the pilot, like a rough cut of the pilot, and we saw like Pogo for the first time, and I had started crying because I forgot that like Ken wasn't actually Ken was a monkey. And I was like, oh my god, it's amazing! And it's like the way his little lips move and the hair on his head, like cheeks move when he talks. It just was. But you take what's in front of you, and your brain kind of does a thing, and I had just completely forgotten that Ken wasn't Ken. Ken was eventually going to be a talking chimpanzee.
So wait a minute, there wasn't an actual monkey?
They tried it, didn't go well. He was always at crafty eating. Yeah.
Monkeys, never union either.
So, how many things have you been in?
Things?
Yeah.
Do you mean musicals?
Yeah, or just like acting.
Acting. Well, I started acting. I started doing community theater when I was 7. I grew up in Virginia, and so I mean, productions. Oh man, I've been in 4 Broadway shows, and then give or take 15 to 20 community theater, regional shows, concerts. Yeah. So a lot of that, and I think, and school, I went to college in New York and studied musical theater, and I went to a performing arts high school, so I did several shows a year in high school, and then did shows in college, so a lot. I actually haven't sat down and counted. That's a great question. I should know the answer.
Denver's
about my own
call you
damn
out.
life.
It's alright, so Wikipedia page somewhere has to have that covered.
I know, yeah. Instagram me when you guys figure it out.
I'll cover you. A lot.
Oh man, now it's gonna bother me. Annie.
Really great question. Thank you so much.
All right. So your character and Vanya Hargreaves had this great dynamic going on, and I was just wondering, like, why would you say Allison was like always defending Vanya even after, you know, episode 8 happened?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So when we pick up in the pilot, Allison is kind of in the middle and like towards the end of getting a divorce, and her husband is actively taking her daughter away from her. And I think she's kind of finds herself at this crossroads where she finds out that her father dies and goes home and realizes that the Umbrella Academy might be the only family that she has left, because she might not be granted visitation rights. She doesn't know the extent of, you know, how far Patrick is going to take her not seeing Claire anymore, because he won't even let her talk to her on the phone. And so I think when she kind of is dealing with this and kind of understanding her situation, and she goes home and kind of sees that her whole family is in shambles, and that the way that they were brought up and the way that their father raised them has just kind of left them all as these like shells of adults. Like they're all over the place, they're a mess. And I think she kind of latches onto her sisterhood with Vanya, because I think she feels like that is a female relationship that she can salvage, because she's losing the relationship with her daughter. And so I think and it's a relationship that she never explored and ignored and had no interest in understanding growing up, because Vanya didn't have powers. So she was like, well, you go over there and play your violin, and I'm gonna be off with the boys stopping bank robbers and terrorists and all of those things. So I think Vanya was an afterthought, and I think she now as an adult is realizing that was such a massive mistake, and also seeing the pain that Vanya is in, and she's, you know, severely depressed and doesn't have any friends and has never really been in a relationship. And so I think Allison is so stubborn about sticking with Vanya and salvaging their relationship, because it might be the only female relationship that she has in her life.
Awesome. Great question.
Hi, so my question is, with all of these incredibly strong women that you've played with, Angelica and Elphaba and Allison, how do you think they would all interact if they were to meet together in a room?
Yes. I feel like they'd be like at a book club, or like reading like crazy books, or like a knitting club. I feel like I want to say that hell yeah, they'd all get along, and hell yeah that they'd all like understand each other and respect each other, and that, my friend, feels like a reality show.
Yeah, waiting to happen.
Like if those three characters existed like in real life, like putting them together like Big Brother, but like three sisters, and then see what happens. Yeah, because two of them have powers, so I mean, poor Angelica. She's like, I'm just over here in my hoop skirt. But she's got the power of her intelligence. So that's a great question. I feel like they'd all get along for sure. I feel like I'm gonna come up with a great answer for that. as to like what they'd be doing.
No, that's a great question.
Give me a minute.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, really good job. No, so we're gonna hashtag this and make this show in production with greenlit. We'll go viral with it. Denver will start.
I'm gonna start a YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just gonna be me. Right?
Didn't you see this?
Having conversations like dual screen with myself, painting myself green every day.
Welcome to cosplay life.
I'm laughing now, and then watch.
It's gonna happen.
I'm gonna be like, oh God, I just need a side project.
And then Denver gets to go, you're welcome, world. Wonderful.
Out of all the characters that you've played, which one do you connect with?
I think that, obviously there's something in all of them that I connect with. I think, you know, the obvious thing about Elphaba, that she's green and she feels like an outsider, and you know, I feel like I don't think there's a single person in this room that hasn't ever felt like they don't fit in, or they haven't quite found their group yet, or they were made fun of, or they were bullied, or and I think I was always into theater, and I was always into, and I grew up in a town where everyone played sports. Like everyone was lacrosse, soccer, swimming, sailing, rowing, football, basketball, it was like a sports town, and I was always like over here being like, well, I'm gonna do musicals. And growing up, I think a lot of kids that I grew up with were like, where do you go every night? And what you're doing? What you sing? It's like, no, it's like doing a production of Annie. It's fine. But I think so. So I think I definitely connected with that side of Elphaba of kind of, when you get older and you find your people and you find your like true circle of friends and you connect with people that are like-minded and what have you. I think, but definitely I was able to connect with that kind of outsidery, not always fitting in side of Elphaba. And then I think with Angelica, she's insanely intelligent, and I think she has this like quiet, reserved patience with her sisters, with the men around her, and I think she always wanted to, even if it wasn't her voice that was heard, I think she always did what she had to do to kind of say what needed to be said and get her opinion across, however that meant. I think a lot of people question her relationship with Hamilton. I personally don't think that they ever had any sort of romantic involvement, but I definitely believe that he was intellectually in love with her, and I think they were intellectually in love, because I think she gave him something that Eliza couldn't give, because I think Eliza that wasn't a concern of hers, and I think Angelica shaping this nation and being in the room where it happened, no pun intended, but that was really important to her, and she wanted her voice to be heard. And I always said, if women were wearing pants, like actual pants, in that time, I think she would. I think she was of a different time, and I think her forward motion and her forward thinking I strive for that just as a human, just to keep it moving and go to the next thing and find the next thing and make sure your voice is heard and then I think with Allison, she has this like crazy strength and this crazy loyalty, and I'm really loyal to my friends and my family and things that are important to me, and so I think that was the thing that I connected to her with, especially with her relationship with Vanya and like wanting to kind of yes. So I think all three of them, it's hard for me to pick one because I think they all represent a part of my life where, I was 24 when I was playing Elphaba, and, that was a very different Emmy than I am now, and, so I think they've all kind of represented a different phase of my life, like almost perfectly.
So I go out and do auditions a lot, so I was wondering if you had any audition tips?
Yeah, I think this kind of broke my brain when I was in college and in New York and starting to audition, and there is this feeling when you're auditioning that you walk into a room, there's someone sitting at a piano, or if you're not auditioning for a musical, there's no piano, and there's 3 to 20 people sitting behind a table. And it's very easy to believe and to feel like they are the enemy and or that they're not on your side. That is incorrect because every single person on the other side of that table wants you to walk in and make their job easier and for you to be what they are looking for. They want you to be what they have been searching for. They are ready to go to lunch. They are ready to go have a rosé. They're like, yes, there she is. Great, bing, bang, boom, and we're done. And so I think knowing that it's not an enemy that you're performing for and you're auditioning for. It is a table full of people that are so happy that you're here because they want you to open your mouth or to sing or do your monologue or do your scene or if you're at a dance call, whatever it is, they want you to be the solution to their problem, which is that we have a role to cast and we haven't found it yet. So I think it was really easy for me for a lot of years to feel like, oh God, I'm wasting their time, and oh God, they're not gonna like me, or whatever it is. And whatever happens once you've left the room is not your concern. So you take your time, that is your room, take the time you need, don't feel rushed, and it'll be what it's gonna be. So I think that was a thing that it takes time to kind of know that in your soul that like they're not the enemy. But I think, and it's not, and I say enemy lightly, but I think it's just easy when you walk in a room and people are just like, hi,
we're gonna judge
perform
you.
for us. Yes, yeah. Put on your show. We're waiting. And I think it's the opposite of that. It's like this could be it. This girl could be it. So I think you have to flip your mindset, and then I think it gives you the space to relax and enjoy it. Because then eventually, I really started to enjoy auditioning. I actually really like it. Yeah.
Wow, what a career advice. We should have charged more for this.
You were reading the script while Vanya actually slices your throat. How was your actual reaction when it came to like, oh, my own sister tried to kill me?
Yeah, so before we got the scripts, Steve Blackman, or the script for episode 8, because it is in the comics, but I just didn't, because they were pulling so many things and leaving so many things and kind of doing their own thing, I didn't know. And by that point, I had like forgotten at that point that was a part of the storyline. And so before they released the scripts to us to read ahead of time, Steve like pulled me into his office and was like, hey, just want to let you know, the end of episode 8, it's bad. And I was like, you're killing me off. And I was like, oh my God, it's my first TV job. I'm terrible. You're killing me off before the season's even over. He's like, no. He was like, but we are keeping like the net cut with Vanya and it's gonna be terrible. And he was like, and you're not gonna talk for the rest of the season. And I was like, is something wrong with my voice? I don't like the way it sounds. I was like, you could have come to me sooner. I would have changed things. But he was like, no, it's just, so he kind of let me know that was happening, but that, it wasn't the end of Allison, it wasn't the end of my acting career. But that, it's a really important part. And I think this, the relationship that Allison is like desperately trying to salvage, I think and then it happens, and then we see how she reacts, that like everybody turns against Vanya except for her still. It's like a really important, thing to explore. And so I was really into it. And then I also, after I had that meeting, I was like, okay, cool. I'm not like, and then not talking for about 2 months, I was like, this is so easy. I was like, I just show up on set, get my hair done, somebody put on my makeup, and then I just give everybody side eye. Lines to memorize. I just get to like stare people down, kind of cry sometimes, get a little emotional. I was like, and then he was like, I promise you'll be talking in season 2. I promise you'll be talking. And I was like, no, it's actually really fine.
No hurry.
I was like, no worry, it's fine. It's like really, it's good. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Huh?
Let's throw a notepad at Diego in season 2.
Oh yeah, he deserves it.